योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम् मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर् गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम्। Today we start with Sutra 4.19. Just for some context, in 4.17 we saw tad uparāgāpekṣitattvāt cittasya vastu jñātā jñātam. So the chitta, with respect to the chitta, something becomes known or not known depending on whether the chitta is colored by it. So in quotes, the knowing and not knowing of chitta, because ultimately, as we'll see, chitta is not the real knower, and we have seen that Purusha is the knower. But from the point of view of chitta, the knowing and not knowing keeps changing depending on whether it's colored by some object or not, whether through indriyas or smriti, etc. On the other hand, as we saw in Sutra 4.18, sada jñātāscitta vrittayah tat pravoho purushasya aparinamitvat. As with regard to the Lord of the Chitta, the Prabhu, which is the Purusha, its object is always known to it, and its object is the Chitta and its vrittis, and the Purusha itself is completely unchanging. So that's what we saw in 4.18. Today we continue there on 4.19, where Vyasa gives a bit of a context and preamble on what 4.19 is about. So Vyasa says, Syat āshanka Chittam eva svābhāsaṃ vishayābhāsaṃ ca vaināṣikānām cittātmavādinām bhavishyati agnivat. So Vyasa is saying, one might have a doubt, syat āshanka. So one might wonder, one might have a doubt. What is that doubt? It is, Chittam eva svābhāsaṃ vishayābhāsaṃ ca. The chitta itself could be something that knows itself and also knows its objects. Okay, so this is in whose minds? Vaināṣikānām, cittātmavādinām. So the Vaināṣikas, who believe in the chitta being momentary. So each chitta comes into existence and goes away, and then there is the next chitta. So there is they call it a pravaha, a flow of momentary chittas. So they are known as the Vaināṣikas. And cittātmavādinām, the chitta itself is the Atma. There is nothing else beyond it. So the Vaināṣikas also believe that the chitta itself, so there is no such thing called Purusha. The chitta itself is sufficient as the self. So then Patanjali and Vyasa are going to counter that. Now, in order to provide the background, there is this line that says, one may wonder that the chitta itself could be self-knowing, also knower of the objects, similar to Agni, Agnivat, says Vyasa. Why Agnivat? What is it about Agni? So the usual parallel being drawn is, the flame or Agni is luminous, but it also illuminates other things. So chitta could be similar. It knows itself and also knows other things. So that is the standpoint. And if you have that, then there is no need to have something called a Purusha, and the Purusha does not exist. From that point of view, Patanjali states the Sutra 4.19. He says, Na tatsvābhāsaṃ dṛśyatvāt. He says, no, the chitta is not svābhāsaṃ. It is not something that illumines itself. Okay? Svābhāsaṃ means the one that makes itself known. Svābhāsaṃ. Or it knows itself. Dṛśyatvāt. Why? Because it is in the category of the seen. It is in the category of the knowable. Because it is in that category, it cannot be in the category of the knower or the seer. So that is what the sutra is saying. After this, of course, we'll see the bhashya, where Vyasa further elaborates on it. Now, Vyasa says, Yatha itarani indriyani shabdadayascha dṛśyatvāt na svābhāsāni tatha manopi pratyetavyam. So here, a lot of the reasoning or anumana pramanam comes from looking at how the world operates, how the other entities are. So a similar thing is being seen here, because we had seen something called panchavayava vakyam, reasoning with a line with 5 parts. One of them was drishtanta, an illustration, how something else is, and this is similar. So in this case, we are looking at how the world functions, how everything else is. So just like the other indriyas, as well as vishayas like shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. So we have seen that form, sound, touch, etc. Those are the objects of those indriyas. They are all in the category of the seen. So they are in the drishyam, that is the category of the seen, category of the knowable. Now, they are not svābhāsāni. They are not known by themselves. They are known by something else. So, na svābhāsāni. Tatha. Similarly, manopi pratyetavyam. Similarly, the mind. Here the mind, the word mana, chitta, etc. are used somewhat synonymously. Manopi pratyetavyam. The manas is to be also, or the chitta also is to be understood in the same sense. So just like indriyas are not self-known, they are to be known through something else, through the chitta, through etc. Shabdadayaha, the vishas, the form, the sound, etc. is known via the indriyas. They are not directly self-known. Similarly, because the manas is also a dṛśya, in the category of the seen, the category of the knowable, it is also to be understood as or considered as na svābhāsāni, not something that is known by itself, that is sort of that shines or makes one itself known directly. It requires something else for it to be known. Now, there is a direct countering of that analogy of Agni or flame or the fire. So here it says, Nacha Agni atra drishtantaha. Agni is not a valid analogy, says Vyasa. Why? Nahi Agni Atma Swarupam Aprakasham Prakashayati. Prakashascha Ayam. Okay, before that. So, Nacha Agni Atma Swarupam Aprakasham Prakashayati. Now, Agni is not making its own Swarupam known. Okay, it shines. It emits light. It is full of light. But its Swarupa is not something that is being illumined by itself. You still need to have eyes to be able to see the flame. For example, somebody who is blind won't be able to see that Agni. So it does not make its Swarupa known directly. There is always a medium that is required. So nahi Agni Atma Swarupam Aprakasham Prakashayati. Prakashascha Ayam Prakashya Prakasha Sanyoge Drishtaha. So this Prakasha or this light, how is it seen? By the Prakashya Prakashaka Sanyoga. So there is the prakashaka is one which is illuminating something else. Prakashya is one that is getting illuminated. When these two things happen, there is something that is illuminating it, there is something that is getting illuminated. When these two take place, that is a sanyoga, that is when that prakasha is seen. Nacha swarupa matre asti sanyoga. By swarupa itself there is no sanyoga. The case of the Agni. It's not as though, suppose somebody is blind, somebody is not looking, etc. The Agni is going to make itself known. The moment an Agni appears, we are going to know about it. It's not that way. It is not making itself known, and therefore this Agni is not a correct analogy. This is also elaborated a little bit. It says from another text. It says Agnihi na atra dṛśyatvāt svābhāsasya udāharanam. So this Agni is not an example of svābhāsaha. It is not making itself known. So it is not a valid example. Shabdadivakt Agne Rupa Dharmo Agninishto va Ghatadhyapatito va Chakshusha eva prakashayate. So just like Shabda, etc., even the Agni, the dharma of the Agni, its Rupa, etc., it becomes known through the medium of the eyes, Chakshuhu. So Chakshusha eva prakashayate. So just like other things get known, like a pot, etc., by looking at it, similarly, Agni also is known because somebody has to look at it. It is not making itself known just by its presence. So it is not svābhāsa. Nahi agninishta rupam tejo dharma bhutam atmasvarupa prakasham prakashayati. So what is the agninishta? Essentially, Agni is a tejo dharma bhutam rupam. Its swarupa is that it is tejo dharma rupam. That is not getting illumined or known directly without any medium. So this particular example of Agni as an analogy to explain the svābhāsaṃ cittam is completely rejected. It says the analogy itself is an invalid one. So it says vishamopannyaso ayam hi atmanam prakashayati agnihi. This is not at all a valid analogy. It is a completely different case, and therefore that is rejected. Now, a different point is considered and countered. So firstly, let us take stock of what is being said. There was an attempt to reject the whole existence of Purusha, because it says by Chitta things can be known, and you can say Chitta knows itself, then you don't need anything else. And it has been countered by saying, wherever we see that something is known, we always see that something is making the knowable is not the known by itself. Something else makes it known. And Agni itself is an invalid analogy. So that is the argument put forth, and that is the argument that gets countered. In subsequent sutras, there are other theories that will be considered and rejected. So this is actually a very interesting thing, requires a bit of a deep thinking on what is the Sankhya Yoga position, and in some sense also the position of other Astika Darshanas in terms of the existence of the Atma, and particularly in the context of Jnatritvam as the knower, and the Bhoktritvam as the experiencer. So we try to understand it deeper and deeper as we go through the sutras, but there is further depth which probably will need more time. But right now we will stick to the text and how it is flowing. So now the other point of view, where another interpretation of this svābhāsaṃ is considered, and that also rejected. What is the other one? Kincha svābhāsaṃ cittam iti agrāyam eva kasyachit iti shabdārthaha tadyatha swātma pratishtam ākāsham na parapratishtam ityarthaha. It says kincha. Well, on the other hand, svābhāsaṃ, the word that is used, okay, it may be referring to more of not as though it is self-establishing, self-illumining, but it indicates that it cannot be known. Agrayam eva kasyachit shabdarthaha. The shabda, the word sabhāsaṃ, may be interpreted by someone as it is simply cannot be known. Agrayam. But how can you interpret that word that way? So now an example is given. Tadyatha swatma pratishtam akasham. So when you say akasha, akasha refers to sort of the element of ether, or in general the anything that is able to create room. So sometimes we say space. So akasha, it says it's swatma pratishtam. It is established in itself. So when we say that, what we really mean is it is not parapratishtam. It does not reside on something else. Okay, it doesn't require another support, another adhara. So therefore, it is not parapratishta. But instead of saying it is not parapratishta, sometimes it says swatma pratishtam. That word is used. Similarly, it might be that when the word tatsvābhāsaṃ is being used here, it may be only to say that it cannot be known by anything else. It may be agrayam, but instead of saying that, the word tatsvābhāsaṃ is used. That might be the case. So that particular case is being considered. Now Vyasa will also counter that. Now Vyasa says, Swabuddhi prachara pratisamvedanāt sattvanam pravrittir dṛśyate. So, well, that is not the case, Vyasa is saying, because we see that various creatures, various beings, they have a recognition, they know the state and activity of their own mind, the state and activity of their own buddhi. This is something that is seen. Swabuddhi, with their own mind, prachara pratisamvedanam means knowing its state and functioning. Pravrittir dṛśyate, that is seen in various sattvanam, means creatures in general. In what sense? Kruddhoham, bhītoham, amutrame ragaha, amutrame krodha, etc. Which means, oh, I am angry, I am afraid, oh I have a desire in this particular direction about this particular thing, I am attached to this thing, oh I am angry at the other thing, etc. So we see that such statements are made, such thoughts do occur, which indicates that people or creatures are aware of their own state of mind and its activities. And therefore, that hypothesis or that postulate, that tatsvābhāsaṃ, is used just to say that it cannot be known at all by anything else. So, na parabhāsaṃ, so tatsvābhāsaṃ. That particular thing is rejected because it is not the case that it cannot be known. We see in day-to-day activities that one knows one state of mind to whatever extent. So therefore, that particular alternative is also rejected. And then Vyasa concludes by saying, etat swabuddhehe agrahanayena yuktam iti. When we see all these such statements being made, then it is not valid to say that, oh, one cannot know one's own state of mind. Swabuddhi agrahanam is something that cannot be accepted because it is clearly seen in day-to-day activities that one knows and people know their state of mind and activities. So the second alternative is also rejected. Therefore, we come to the conclusion that the chitta by itself is not a knower of itself. It is in the category of the knowable, and you still need something else, which is the knower. So that is the sutra and the bhashya for na tatsvābhāsaṃ dṛśyatvāt 4.19.
So Patanjali has commenced to present arguments and have the necessary polemics to substantiate his stand. And we have embarked upon a very interesting topic. We'll continue for some sutras. And here he commences, after having told that there is an entity called Atma, the self, which is Sadagnyata. And it is Swami of the Swam, the Buddhi or Chitta. So these two entities are very important postulations of the orthodox philosophies. And the Vainashikas are opponents to these postulations. And in the West, we have panpsychism, which postulates everything is mind, and there is no entity other than mind. In India, Vainashikas had a unique position to counter. They were countering Atmavadins, while in the West, the history of philosophy, we don't come across Atmavadins, self-vadins. But Vainashikas had people around them who were Atmavadis, and they had to not only refuse, but they had to disprove. They had to disprove the position taken by the orthodox philosophers. So here comes the sutra, na tatsvābhāsaṃ dṛśyatvāt. Vainashikas believe, let the mind know the mind. Like we know our yesterday's mind. Yesterday I did this. Yesterday I was sad. Today I am happy. So it's for common man to be very influenced about it. They say it is all mind. Yesterday you were sad, and now today you know that you were sad yesterday, and today you are not sad. So it is the mind which is revealing. So mind reveals itself. That's called svābhāsaṃ. So mind reveals itself. This is a stand taken by Vainashikas. So we will later come to know how the postulation is. And earlier also we had to consider this on one occasion, that it is the chain of mind, and the present mind knows the previous mind, and present mind will be known by the future mind. The continuum of the mind flow, and therefore we don't have to postulate something as an entity called self or Swami or the Prabhu, which orthodox philosophers do postulate, that Atma itself is self. So, na tatsvābhāsaṃ dṛśyatvāt. Now they give an example of svābhāsaṃ, that it is like fire or Agni. The Agni reveals itself, and it also reveals what is around it. So the fire is something that you don't need any another revealer for fire. The fire will be revealed by its luminosity. You don't have to have another light put on it and say that, yes, this is a light. You don't try to see the light with a light. The light itself reveals itself. So this is the example that they give. The light reveals itself, and light will also reveal that is around it, in the vicinity of it. So the light is self-luminous, and it also illuminates the objects around it, in the vicinity of it. So that's why they give this example. The mind reveals itself, and the mind also reveals what it experiences. So there is no need to postulate an entity called self or Purusha. And this is their stand, and therefore they are trying to put forward their argument, saying that it is svābhāsaṃ. But about the example that they are given, it is not proper, as Vyasa diverges. See, the fire or light is self-luminous, and it also illuminates. But there is no question that the fire reveals itself. We see the light because it is self-luminous. Fire is self-luminous, therefore we see the effulgence of the light of the fire. But that is not the question here that we are dealing with. Tatsvābhāsaṃ is not a proper analogy here. The fire or the flame reveals itself and reveals objects in its vicinity. There is no case that the fire is revealed by fire. So Tatsvābhāsaṃ is not a proper analogy here. So that is what has been postulated. And even the fire it doesn't reveal itself. It has to be seen with the help of instruments such as eyes. A visual organ should be there. Yatha icarani indriyani. Same is the case of other objects. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. And fire, which is luminous, swayam prakasha, yet it is not seen. A blind person will not see. Those who are not looking at the fire will not see luminosity of the fire. So it needs an instrumentation. So it is not, in that sense, we should understand the position, the postulation that it is fire is self-luminous. Is it revealed by a blind man? No. So how will you say that it is self-luminous? It is self-luminous for those who are having vision. So therefore this example or analogy that is being used is not proper. Therefore there must be another entity which reveals the mind, chitta. The panpsychism, they believe that it is chain of mind frames which goes on revealing, and mind will reveal itself as well. So they again another example is that if somebody is angry, somebody is not merely angry, knows that he or she is angry. If somebody is afraid, he or she knows that he or she is afraid. Now, this is not the mind knowing the mind. It is something else knowing the mind. That the mind is in this state. Mind itself will not reveal itself for itself. Mind will reveal itself for someone else, and that is the Swami. That is the Prabhu. So, there is no case that the mind knows itself. Mind reveals itself, and to whom? That is the entity of self, entity of Purusha, entity of metaphysical Atma. And therefore, that's how Vyasa is substantiating the postulations of spiritualistic philosophers, or those who believe in the self. All the orthodox philosophers have postulated self. It is heterodox philosophers who have rejected the entity of the self, and they are trying to put arguments to say that there is no need to postulate such an entity. Such an entity which is Swami, which is Prabhu, which is eternal, which is immutable, which is indestructible, which is constant, Nitya, etc., etc. Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta, etc., etc. And therefore, Vainashikas are trying to make their point of view get substantiated by various arguments, analogies that they are able to collect together and present. And therefore, here it has been said that analogy that you have brought in is not proper. So, in case of fire, the fire is self-luminous, no doubt about it. But who realizes the luminosity of the fire? The fire doesn't realize itself that it is luminous. It makes other, like we people, to know that the fire is self-luminous. We don't need illuminator to know that it is fire. But the fire itself doesn't reveal itself. It reveals others. That it is bright, it is effulgent. And because of its effulgence, other things are also sighted in the vicinity of light. So the point is, here is an argument going for establishment and postulation and substantiation of the stand of the Patanjala in particular and orthodox philosophies in general, that Purusha Tattva, Atma Tattva is the Prabhu and Swami. And even earlier we had seen that with the proximity of the Atma Tattva, Purusha Tattva, the Chitta or Buddhi Tattva becomes seemingly conscious. It becomes seemingly conscious. That doesn't mean it is conscious. As long as the iron ball is in contact or in the fire, it will be fireball. But once you separate it from the fire, after a while it will become black, opaque iron ball. So as long as the manas and buddhi are in proximity or in contact or conjunction or samyoga with the Purusha Tattva, the buddhi or chitta seems to be seemingly conscious. This is the position of the orthodox philosophers. And therefore, the fire must be postulated to say that iron ball becomes fireball. And that's how it is being postulated here, that it is dṛśyatvāt. So this is in refutation of Vainashikas. Okay.
Now we look at the next sutra, which continues the same thing by providing another counter argument. It says ekasamaye cobhayānavadhāraṇam. So that is Sutra 4.20. Ekasamaye cobhayānavadhāraṇam. It says, okay, furthermore, at the same time, two things cannot be known or held. So once again, to understand this, we have to remind ourselves the position being countered is of the Vainashikavadin, who maintains that chitta is momentary, comes and goes. Next moment, another chitta comes and goes. So this is the position of the one of the streams of the Buddhist philosophers, the Vainashikas. So comes and goes, and it is the flow of this which is consciousness, and that is the position there. Now here the momentariness is being taken into account to provide another argument as to why that position is wrong and why the Purusha, as held to be true by Sankhya, Yoga, etc., Astika Darshanas, is necessary. So, ekasamaye, at a given moment, cobhayānavadhāraṇam, two things being grasped or known or held by the chitta is not acceptable. What are the two things? The chitta knows the object, whatever it is being known, a rose, a lotus, a pot, etc. But if the opponent is holding that it is also svābhāsaṃ, which means it also knows itself, its current state, the fact that it knows the rose, its current state of being, etc. Now both the things being known is a problem if you hold the thing to be momentary, existence to be momentary. So Vyasa says, Nacha ekasmin kshane svapararupavadharanam yuktam. It is not acceptable, it doesn't make sense that at the same, if the existence is very momentary, in that momentary state, the chitta is cognizing something, some other entity, and then it is also cognizing its own state as cognizing something else. Now both of these cannot happen at the same time, in the same moment. So for example, if the chitta is knowing a rose that is in front of it, the fact that it is knowing the rose has to come at a slightly later moment? How can its own state and this happen at the same time if the existence is extremely momentary to the infinitesimal moment as held by the Vainashikavadins? So, न च एकस्मिन् क्षणे स्वपररूप अवधारणं युक्तम्. क्षणिकवादिनः यद्भवनं सैव क्रिया तदेव च कारकम् इति अभ्युपगमः. Now, from the point of view of the Kshanikavadin, okay, what their Siddhantam is, coming into existence, that itself is the Kriya. Okay, that itself is the action that is happening. The fact that Chitta is coming into existence, and that itself is the Karakam. Okay, so that is how their standpoint is. So the coming into being and being there, being present, that is the only function. So that is the karakata, that is the only function and or activity in terms of kartrutva, karanatvam, karmatvam, etc. So the entire karakatvam is done just by coming into being. That is the Siddhanta of the Vainashikas. Now, if that is the Siddhanta, additionally postulating that Chitta knows other things and itself, because it is acceptable that it comes into being and it cognizes something, because that is its function. But coming into being, cognizing something, and further cognizing itself in that state, that is again the position of momentariness. So therefore, this is another argument in terms of how that particular conception, the combination of Vainashikavada and Svābhāsaṃ, brings an inconsistency in the position of the Vainashikavada. So that inconsistency is being pointed out as part of 4.20. And as we know, it is not uncommon that sutras will establish one's position but also counter the other positions that we see in Brahma Sutras and elsewhere. And we have to look at it as a way to gain a deeper understanding of the subject matter, because it also presents alternative positions which may seemingly seem valid. And then how can we arrive at the position of yoga, getting the one as the one that is to be established or that is to be understood, or understand how the position of yoga can stand scrutiny when in the presence of other possible positions. And this is sort of the greater honing of our understanding, sharpening of understanding that will happen towards the end of the text. This is the 4th chapter. So we have to pay close attention to in a way test ourselves that our understanding is valid, and how this understanding can then be employed to see the flaws in other possibly correct sounding positions. So that is Sutra 4.20 here, which gave another argument against the Vainashikavada and the Svābhāsaṃ, the combination, and Vyasa's Bhashya on it.
So the Vainashikas, Buddhists, they believe that everything is momentary, nothing is permanent actually. Though there is also Kshanikavadam, momentariness. So with respect to the analogy that we just now considered, that if there is a continuum, chain of mind units running incessantly, and present mind reveals previous mind, and present mind is revealed by the following mind, so there's a momentariness. However, there, ekasamaye cobhayānavadhāraṇam, at a given point in time, in one moment, both two functions cannot take place. That there is self-revelation and revelation of the experience. Object sighted, and I am seeing the object. So, the role of being drashta and dṛśya, I am the seer and I am seen, cannot take place simultaneously. In the even example that we saw, that mind is angry and mind knows it's angry, or mind is afraid, the mind knows it is afraid, etc. It is not precisely in one moment simultaneously taking place. And the momentariness and this Vainashika's point and Kshanikavadi's point of view is severely examined. And it says, see, in one moment, how many functions are there for mind unit? Take birth from previous mind. Because there will be generation of mind units. If there is a continuum of mind unit, and each mind unit is impermanent, it is not constant, it is impermanent. That means mind unit has to take birth. Mind unit, after having taken birth, has to do its function, and the mind unit has to generate next unit. So taking birth, doing the job, and then also turning out next generation. Three functions, minimum three functions are there. And then also knowing oneself. So see, so many functions cannot take place in one moment precisely. So one moment it will take birth, next moment it will experience, and next moment it will turn out next generation. It will be turning out its offspring. How can you expect all the functions taking place in one moment? So being seen and being a seer, ekasamaye cobhayānavadhāraṇam. It is not possible that simultaneously it will take place. And for it to be taking place at a later point in time, it is impermanent, momentary, it doesn't last. So the combination of my Vainashika's philosophy and the Kshanikavadam in their philosophy, it becomes more difficult, it becomes cumbersome to be postulating that it is seer and seen as well. And therefore this sutra says, ekasamaye cobhayānavadhāraṇam. It is impossible to have both the functions carried out, that this is seen, I am seer. And for it to take place in next moment, that point is not there. It's also gone into latency. So the momentary postulation of the momentarist or Kshanikavadins and Vainashikas doesn't stand reason. And it is absolutely absurd to be postulating that. And therefore another argument is presented here. Ekasamaye cobhayānavadhāraṇam. The dṛśyatvāt and the experience of it and the cognition of it, all that cannot take place in one moment. At least the three moments should be there. There will be more moments, one to take birth, second to do the function, third to reveal itself, and fourth to be revealed. So at least 4 moments should be there. They don't allow, they only say momentarism. Anyway, this is how the Vainashikas and Kshanikavadins are being examined and severely tested. And our position is being postulated. Okay.
Okay. So now, when we continue to see the next position in Sutra 4.21, where it says, Vyasa begins, he says, Syanmatihi Swarasa niruddham chittam cittāntarena samanantarena grhyate iti. So one might think that one might have the point of view in the same position of momentariness of the chitta, that once the chitta has gone away, that chitta vanishes, another chitta, okay, is one that knows this chitta. Okay, cittāntarena. Via another chitta, this chitta is known. So that could be a point of view. So what is wrong with that? So to address that comes the sutra. cittāntaradṛśye buddhibuddheratiprasaṅgaḥ smṛtisaṅkaraśca. So, in the standpoint of a cittāntaradṛśyam, that okay, this chitta is known by another chitta. So all chittas are momentary. Then buddhibuddheratiprasaṅgaḥ, which means this buddhibuddha, the chitta that knows the other chitta. Okay. Now to know this chitta, you will need a third chitta. So that is atiprasaṅgaḥ, sort of an infinite regress, the fallacy of an infinite regress. Because to know a chitta, you said, okay, another chitta can know that. But then one might question, who knows that chitta? Then the answer is, okay, another chitta can know that. And then this can go ad infinitum, and that is atiprasaṅgaḥ. And furthermore, smṛtisaṅkaraśca. The smriti gets completely confused, the memory, the understanding. So, as we discuss the bhashya, we'll see why. But the Sutra 4.21, the other position, as you see, it is not let go. The other position comes up, keeps on coming up with other possible explanations. And Vyasa and Patanjali says, okay, but that is still invalid. If you think clearly, it is still invalid, and so on. So, deeper and deeper, sharper and sharper firming up of the understanding of the Sankhya Yoga position is happening here. So this is Sutra 4.21. Cittāntaradṛśye buddhibuddheratiprasaṅgaḥ smṛtisaṅkaraśca. Now, let's begin with the bhashya. Vyasa says, Ata chittam chet cittāntarena gṛhyet buddhibuddhihi kena gṛhyate. Okay, now if you see that this chitta is to be, or this chitta is known or grasped by another chitta, then this chitta, which we refer to as buddhibuddhi, the chitta that knows the other buddhi, this buddhi that knows the other buddhi, that is grasped by whom? Buddhibuddhi kena gṛhyate. Sapi anyaya iti atiprasaṅgaḥ. If you keep saying that, oh, this also by another one, this also by another one, then we have led into atiprasaṅgaḥ. This is a bit too much. This is fallacious. There is a fallacy. Smṛtisaṅkaraśca. Furthermore, there is a complete mixing up of smriti, of memory. How come? Yavanto buddhibuddhīnām anubhavāः tāvatyah smṛtayah prāpnuvanti. So this buddhi, as many experiences there are, those many anubhava, those many experiences are there, and those many smritis, memory points are going to get generated. Tatsvābhāsaṃ ekasamaye syaत्. If this happens by this confusion, one smriti cannot be held. Ityevam buddhi pratisamvedinam purusham apalapadbhihi vainashikaihi sarvam eva akulikritam. So, we'll see why there is this smṛtisaṅkaraḥ, but there is a complete mixing up and confusion of the smriti. And then, says Vyasa, he says, okay, these people, the Vainashikas, who want to reject the existence of the Purusha, they have completely confused everything. Okay, because they're saying, okay, there is infinite regress, there is a confusion of the chitta, of the smriti, and so on. Now, to understand this confusion of smriti, I mean, we can think of a case where a chitta looks at a pot, and then it says, Ghatam janami, I know that pot. Now, the chitta says pot. Now, another chitta has to say, okay, this chitta knows the pot, I know the pot. But the another chitta, let's say it looks at a cloth, the patam. So the another chitta says, I know the cloth, and I also know this chitta that knows the pot. So look at the mixing up. Then third chitta, who knows this, looks at a matham, a place. So this is sort of a standard example. So it says, okay, now this third chitta says, matam janami, I know the matha. Patagnyatra chittam janami, I also know the chitta that knows the pata. And gatagnyatra chittagnyatra chittam janami, I also know that chitta which knows the chitta that knows the ghata. If you have these kinds of experiences and memories, this is a complete mixing up of memories. This is smṛtisaṅkaraśca. Does not make sense at all. Because what is known by a chitta is an object and another chitta, which itself knows another chitta and another object, and everything is getting mixed up. So, sarvameva akulikritam. Everything has been confused. Says Vyasa. Tetu bhoktru-swarupam yatra kvachana kalpayanto na nyayena sangacchate. Wherever people with this position are trying to imagine the bhoktru-swarupam, the experiencer, wherever they do it, it is not it does not hold scrutiny. Na nyayena sangacchate. It does not stand the test of logic. All positions turn out to be illogical or inconsistent. Now, further, Vyasa continues. Kechit sattvamatram api parikalpya asti sattvo ya etan panchaskandhan nikshipya anyanscha prati sandadhati ityuktva tata eva punarstrasyanti. Now, this is another aspect being criticized, which presupposes a certain knowledge of the Buddhistic position, which we do not have. So we don't really, let's not look at it in too much detail. But there is a notion of the Panchaskandha headed by those positions. There's a Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Vijnana and Sanskara. All of these are said to be momentary. But then they say that when liberation occurs, when nirvana occurs, then these five skandhas are given away and a different, purer set of five skandhas are taken up. Now, this position seems almost as though the existence of a self is being accepted, because who is giving up the five skandhas, impure skandhas, and who is taking up as part of nirvana the five pure skandhas? You are almost saying there is something other than these that exists, which is the self, but then not accepting it. It says panchaskandhan nikshipya anyanscha prati sandadati iti uktva, but almost after saying that, tata eva punastrasyati. Again, by that itself they suffer, and they do not go to the additional length of saying, okay, there is a self. So that's another kind of a criticism being made. So the position is not consistent, because at one time you say this, another time you say that, and these two things don't fit together, and so on. Now, there is also a position against, or a position called Shunyavada, which is nothing exists. Absolutely nothing exists. So everything is Shunya. This is again one of the position of one of the Buddhistic schools. So tata skandhanam mahanirvedaya viragaya anutpadaya prashantaye gurorantike brahmacharyam charishyami ityukta sattasya punah sattvameva apannavate. Says, okay, there are people who say, okay, let me get the panchaskandhas purified. Let me have vairagya. Let me have shanti, prashanta. So they go to the guru. They practice a lot of austerity. We know that in the Buddhistic tradition there is a lot of austerity, life as a monk, etc. So brahmacharyam charishyami, I will practice brahmacharya, etc. They all do that. And having said all these things, punah sattvameva apunnavate. Then after saying all these things, they say, okay, there is nothing that exists. Because the sattva, the existence. Satta means being, the state of being there, existence. That itself, they say that nothing exists. There is only shunya. So this again, this position is completely inconsistent. If nothing exists, then why is the need to go to a guru, do brahmacharya, develop vairagya, develop this prashantness, etc.? That is sort of a position is, Vyasa is saying, it is absurd. And then he says, Sankhya Yogadayastu Pravadaha. The Sankhya, Yoga, etc. This is the Astika positions. They are Pravadaha. They are superior arguments. Sreshthavadaha. So they are superior positions. Svashabdena Purusham Eva Swaminam Chittasya Bhoktaram Upayanti. By the term Sva as self, Purusham Eva, it refers to the Purusha who is the Swami of the Chitta, Chittasya Swaminam, who is the Purusha who is the Swami of the Chitta, Bhoktaram, who is the Bhokta, who is the experiencer. That is the entity that is referred to by Sankhya Yogadaya. So Sankhya Yoga and other Astika darshanas that accept the existence of a metaphysical self. So here, once again, we see another position was considered of one chitta knowing. If a chitta does not know itself, okay, then let another chitta know this chitta. That argument also has been completely countered. Further, some Vyasa has alluded to the Shunyavada and considered that position as absurd. And then finally, he said the position of Sankhya and Yoga, which clearly recognizes the existence of the self, which is aparinamini, chitishakti, unchanging, eternal, made up of consciousness, etc. That position in Sankhya Yoga, etc., which also refers to other Astika darshanas, those are the superior positions, pravadaha. So with that ends Sutra 4.21, and we'll continue with the next sutras in the next session.
So the inconsistencies, illogicality, unreasonableness of Vainashikas, Shunyavadins and Kshanikavadins, the Buddhists, has been exposed further. Now this inconsistency and illogicality has been exposed here. How? Because they postulate that there is a chain of mind units running constantly. They call it alay vignan. It constantly, the mind is, if the mind cannot be knower and known, the mind will become known to another mind, which immediately follows it. So mind itself can be knower, mind itself can be knowable, mind itself can be knowing. Now, the problem is that the content of the minds will go on increasing. The content of the first mind becomes the content of the second mind, and the second mind has its own content. The third mind will have content of the mind 1, mind 2 unit, and mind 3 itself. The fourth mind unit will have the component, the content of mind 1 unit content, mind 2 unit content, mind 3 unit content, and its own content. So this is highly inconsistent, and the defect in the form of infinite regression that we just now heard about is very much evident in such postulations. Now, and secondly, smṛtisaṅkara. So suppose you are remembering something that has happened 20 years back. All the memories up to that point in time should surface. We cannot get just a memory of something 20 years back, because so many memories are stored in the mind unit. All experiences of previous units are content of the following units. So the mind units are impregnated with such enormous impressions and memories, so it would create a smṛtisaṅkara, confusion in memories. So suppose we remember something that has happened 20 years back, we straight away get that memory. Not all the memories up to 20 years and all the memories after 20 years. But in postulation of this Alaya Vignan, the mind content will have all the memories until that time, up to that time. Then it will have its own memory content. Now, if it is being remembered by after 20 years, all the contents of the chitta until that time will flash. So there will be memory confusion, and it doesn't happen. The experience is not that. So smṛtisaṅkaraśca. So therefore, illogicality has been further exposed. You say that the contents go on increasing. Now understand the amount of increase in the contents for every mind unit. And therefore, this postulation that there is a continuum of the chitta units successively without break, and then the content go on getting stacked up in every new coming mind stuff. This is not according to our experience, and this cannot be even accepted. It is unreasonable. So that's how the Kshanikavadins, Vainashikas, and the Shunyavadins have been refuted. So see the contradiction. On one hand, it is nihilism, everything is shunyam, and still they accept the whole phenomenon of life, alaya vignan, and therefore they go for even austerities, etc. Now, if there is nothing, everything is void, why should they be embracing these ascetic performances? Why should they become ascetics? Why should they go for jnana, shanti, etc., etc.? Because everything is void. So the hollowness of the philosophy of the heterodox has been exposed by all the orthodox systems, and Patanjali takes his share. Okay.
Okay. So we'll stop for today. Recite the shlokas on Guruji and end the session. Vaiඥānikam pravakritva āsaneshu kalavidam yogābhyāse ca tattvajñam vandeham sundaram gurum yoga vriksho hi lokesmin yat preranena varditah yogācārya guru tubhyam sundaraya namo namah. Thank you.
Namaskar all of you.